As we get into the Nasdaq 100 and exactly what's happened on the stock market today, we need to talk about, is this short-term crash over? And I don't really believe that it is, but how do we know where we're going tomorrow and how we knew that we were going to start dropping into today? Before we get into that, I have to ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Every single day, we're bringing you the videos. We talked about the big drop, the big catalyst into today, how we knew what to trade and what to look for in the market, specifically going over those stocks every single day doing this. So make sure you're liking and subscribing and turn those notifications on. Now, when we get back in here, I want to talk about specifically where we're at. Now, if you were looking at us yesterday, we were talking about this level down here, about 12.2 to lows around 12.1. Now, we got almost a test of 12,000, very close, like within 15 points, give or take. And now you're working your way back up. Now, we have to go over a few specific things. I've mentioned, have we quote unquote made a short-term bottom? And that's a big question we have to talk about. And I'm not big on talking about bottoms, but I want to talk about where you're at. Now, when we look locally where you're bouncing, it's at those previous highs that you had back here in July and in June. Okay, so we get in here. This is where you were back in June. Recap. This was your high of June 27th. You dipped, came back to this level in July, you dipped, and then eventually you broke and retested and went back up, okay? This is a major level, 12.25 down to locally about 12.15. Huge area of support. Today, we dipped below it clearly, retested like a 12.1, 12.2 roughly, came back down, dipped really low, tested 12,000, we bounced. Now, what I want to talk about is what's happening here. You're operating in a clear, tight zone. Obviously, getting down, getting in a clear downward trend right now. We can just see what's happening, this channel that's formed that you've been operating in basically this entire week, right? Now, from this, I'm not saying that you're going to bounce. And I'm going to tell people to tread a little bit carefully here. However, there's a few things I want to talk about when we get to about the daily chart here on the Nasdaq especially. Look at that candle that we just had. This is today's candle, and we're already starting the new day here because futures go 24.5. But as you see here, look at that nice candle. I've been talking all week about volume, buyers, and sellers. And that's ultimately how we knew a dip was coming, right? And when we get into this, specifically with the Nasdaq, you're seeing finally some buyers step in this range. That's what we like to see, right? We come down to support, back down here, back those levels, and bam, you're back above it. That's a good sign. So going into tomorrow, I'm not bullish yet. However, I do see room for some upside if any type of buying volume steps in. Now let's go and take it a step further. We're going to check out Bookmap and we're going to come back to the SP 500. Now when we get here into Bookmap and we're going to go over Cheddar Flow, I want to talk about Bookmap specifically. When we zoom out here, I'm going to cover CVD, and then we're going to go into some of the dark pool coming in here, the blue line. But CVD really represents your volume. It's this green line right here. And it was tracking up all day long, right? Now, ES, it's worth mentioning. Really, you had some downside, but you chopped sideways on ES, which is S&P futures, which is, we'll talk about that here in a second when we get to the chart. Now, you had some initial downside, but you saw that sideways downward chop and CVD continued going up, which was really interesting. I talked about it in Discord. I was like, it's pretty bearish that you're moving this way. But the fact that you continued up in through the end of the day when you got some of that more bullish volume, that was good to see. But I want to address something right now. Even though you had this upside, you had the opportunity for this bounce all day long. Why? So I want to show you right here. You see this liquidity? This is all buyers, right? These are buyers trying to hold you up. So you would get pushed down with minimal volume, and then you would step back up with buyers. You'd come back down, and buyers would push you back up. But the thing is you had no selling liquidity up here. Now you're starting to get some near the end of the day, but up here, or in this local range, when you were making these lower highs, you weren't having any sellers here. So you had the opportunity all day to bounce, but buyers just never stepped in. And this was something I was talking about in Discord. And this is what we've been talking about all week going over these trades is buyers weren't stepping in, but it's good to see that near the end of the day, buyers started to finally step in. On the dark pool, on the hidden order book, this blue line represents what's happening. Sellers near lunch, sellers after lunch, sellers near the end of the day. And you saw a little bit of buyers step in. So I want to caution you there. And that's another reason why I'm going to this market tomorrow. And I'm just like, I have no positions besides my natural gas position. But besides that, I have no other positions. And I really just focused on trading the trend throughout the day. That's what I've been focusing on. Now, as we go over to Cheddar flow. What's happening here? What does the flow look like? Looking at SPY. Again, I'm going to go specifically over to premium. So the biggest one, SPY, heavily to the downside. Okay. Now it's worth mentioning half of these orders came in the beginning of the day. The other half came at the end of the day. QQQ, heavy into tech. What's happening here? It's heavy into the downside still. Lots of puts coming in here. SPX, you have to decide. You have some big orders on the call side, but none of these are really that aggressive. They're all splits and blocks. But we look more at Qs, they give us a more visual answer of kind of what's happening here. So although this candle looks great on Nasdaq, I want to caution you based on the options chain and that dark pool data coming out there, which still shows sellers are the most active and the most aggressive right now. And this goes to how we've moved all week. So as we look here, I want that to be your caution going into this market. I want to go over to some trades that I've been looking at personally and what I traded on the day. I like to always do this here on the channel, not to, hype up myself, but to be very transparent, to show you the winners and show you the losers, right? So on the day, what did we trade? We had Google, we bought Google, and then we got AMD. We got $80 AMDs at 320, and then we got the Googles at 214 on the high end, 208 on the low end. Those contracts ended up running crazy. I got out of my AMDs around $4, a little bit over as well. And then we got out of the Googles conservatively around 273. They actually ended up running closer towards $3. So big winners there. And then Jay was actually the big winner on the day. They made almost 400% on those NVIDIA calls or puts to the downside. They made a killing, absolutely destroying it. What a play. Congratulations. They just murdered that play. So that's what we traded on the day. No losers. Thank God. Good trading day. But I want to focus on what I've been saying here on the channel as well as we look at these charts and go into the SPY. I encourage you to focus on trading the breakout, people. Okay. And what do we talk about? We said once you start breaking below these lows and really holding down here, that's when you start getting that movement, okay? So that's what we love to see here. We got that action. We played the breakout to a T. Congratulations if you did the same. Or if you had a good trading day, congratulations. Looking at SPY, I want to talk about what's happening here. First, I'm going to go to the 4 hours and zoom back in. SPY, where are you coming down to? Those previous lows. Look at where you're bouncing to a T. Guys, this is very simple. Just go to a larger time frame and find these key levels of where you're at. Right down to your previous lows on July 26 on that retest. And as we zoom out here, it is a perfect head and shoulders, and you're getting the perfect formation, right? Look what's happening. Bottom here, shoulder here, head here, shoulder here. And I'm just saying, if you come up to this level right here with a bounce and you get rejected the same as you got rejected there, you got to bet on that downside, people. So I'm looking for a 400 retest into tomorrow, and how you react will tell us a lot. It's important to know fundamentals, which we'll go over here in a second, but I want to just talk about these key levels into the end of the week so you're prepared and ready. This weekend, I'll have a more fundamental outlook of what I'm expecting next week, but looking on here, you got a good reaction, and again, you finally got buyers to step in here. You pushed up. Congratulations. This is the first time all week buyers really stepped in. You had some decent buying here on, I believe that was Tuesday, but it just ultimately got slapped right back down. So this is the first real sight of buyers we're seeing here. But going into tomorrow, what I'm looking for is a retest of 399 to 400. And again, I'm betting on some downside break from that level. Going into NQ, what are we looking at there? It's going to be very similar. I'm looking for a test possibly of 12.4, 12.37, the high range here, possibly 12.475. This range to push back down. That's what I'm looking at. I'm going to keep it real simple. That's my viewpoint of the market right now. And then I want to focus on some fundamentals of what really started to hurt the market today, because that's really what got this momentum for the downside. First off, you have NVIDIA being told by the US that they need to start restricting sales to China. Now, do I think this is quote unquote a coincidence? No, because following into this data as well, you get Taiwan shooting down a Chinese drone. Now, is this confirmed? It's hard to say, but we're getting it from very reliable sources. Reuters is one of my favorite sources of overall stock news. Absolutely love them. But I want to highlight here of what's happening with China. The same thing that we said with Russia. We were very big on Russia invading Ukraine. We were one of the first channels. You can go back, go look, go play through the stuff. We were telling everyone way back here. Back in February, we were talking about it. I was trying to warn and tell everyone. Now, going into this news, you're having China making some of these steps, and then you're having John Kirby talk about what's happening in China and showing what's really going on there and how serious it is. Now, I'm not trying to, fear monger or push this down your throat or get you scared. I'm just telling you to be aware for your portfolio, because if this escalates to what it could possibly become, or if we have a Russia-Ukraine situation all over again with Taiwan, I'm telling you right now, the China deal with Taiwan will be far larger and far more effective towards Americans than you realize. This is the number one country that produces semiconductors, ladies and gentlemen. It's very important. And the fact that NVIDIA now is having to restrict sales to China is getting more and more serious. So we're going to want to keep an eye out on this fundamental news. Definitely. This is going to be one of the biggest parts of the market. Now, going into stocks that I'm liking, stocks I'm looking at. First up, I want to cover the big six. And this isn't one of those days to where I'm like heavily looking at stuff right now, but I want to highlight what happened in some of these charts we've been looking at here. The big six. Remember, we had this big breakout. You shot up. We were bullish. Kumbaya. It was great, right? Now you're below this range. And the question is how are you going to react to when you get back to this level? That's what we're looking at. Looking like you want to get a little bit of a bounce again into tomorrow. Looks like you want something, but how are you going to react? That's the question. And so I'm telling you, be on the lookout on the big six here. Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google, Amazon, Tesla. Be on the lookout because this could be very dangerous. Looking at some of the fundamental viewpoints here as well. JNK, DXY, etc. Looking at the 1 day, 1 hour chart, right? As we zoom in here, look at what's happening. Another nasty gap down. You're trying to reclaim, trying to push up. I see people asking me on Twitter and other social medias, Tyler, are we looking better on J&K? If you gap down and you don't even feel the gap back up, you still look terrible. Okay, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just being serious, right? You're still making lower levels across the board every single day. DXY, what's happening here? I warned you yesterday and I told you. I said the pound is going to get hit. Guess what? The pound is at its lowest level in a decade. It's getting railed. The dollar is extremely strong. When the dollar goes up, it is a risk-off market. We don't like risk when the dollar goes up. It's more valuable to hold your dollars. That's what's happening here. As we look at yields, the inversion, if you haven't been following, this is the number one indicator when it comes to the recession. Look at what's happening here. Sitting at highs, 97%, working your way up to a full inversion. Again, if you're new to the channel and you don't look out with this, look at where we've been before. This was your 2018 pullback, and now it's not a recession. I shouldn't have put that, but if you were aware, if you were trading during this time, go look back at what happened into 2018. That really hurt the market, but we had a few fundamental policies and monetary policies that brought us out of those trenches. But that's why, because we use all those policies so soon, that's why we're in this big predicament we are now. I've covered that quite a bit on the channel, but again, the housing bubble, last time we inverted there as well, and then again, the dot-com bubble. So you need to recognize where we're at and what's happening, and that you're still trending at these high ranges and how long you tend to trend here. And the fact that you're back up here and you keep climbing and looking more and more bullish and you're riding this clear trend up, it has to keep you concerned on the market. Okay? You haven't had bonds getting hurt this bad in so long. So be careful when you're looking at this. But again, this has been one of the best indicators for more pullback, more downside on our economy. Now I'm going to go into a few stocks that I'm loving, a few stocks that I'm liking into tomorrow, and possibly to keep on your watch list. First up, Tesla. Tesla is the best stock right now in the market to day trade. I'm going to tell you right now, it just is. When we look at these ranges on the 5-minute chart, just take a second and just sit in awe. If we really look here, what happened on the day? So yesterday you ended at 275, you gapped down to 270, you pop back up to 276, and then you go back down to 266. There's not a better moving stock in the market, people, okay? So just know that. So if you're looking at our day trading, Tesla should be the number one stock to look at. Now, into tomorrow, I want to highlight a few points. I'm actually going to bring this range up right here. So I'm watching a few key levels. The 280 to 279 level. Huge level. I told y'all yesterday. I said if you push up to this level, look for the rejection. Guess what? You try to push up today, you didn't even get there. The day before that, you pushed up, rejected. So we've been looking out for this a lot of downside here. And you got so close to our target, but you did not get the final break below 266 to hit 273 or 263 to 264. This is actually drawn down a little bit, so it should be right there. But that's what we're looking at on Tesla. From there, though, I'm looking for a rejection at 280 to 279. If you get above 280, I'd be looking for 283. possibly the 286 region as well. You love to see it. Tesla, great moving stock, but I love these ranges right now. Again, the biggest thing is how are you going to react from this range at 280 to 279? That's going to give you a majority of your answer there. Next up, Meta. I mean, beautiful play, people. Meta this morning, you gap up, you start pushing up like crazy to 267, another triple top, and then you come right down to the level we mentioned yesterday, down at 160 to 160.5, and now you're bouncing right now. Love to see it. Absolutely beautiful movement. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're getting a lot of volatility up and down. So you need to be careful when it comes to your profits right now. Not financial advice, but when you're looking at these charts, don't get too greedy right now. Take the trade and run with it. But make sure you're moving your stops in tangent with this as well. I'm actually going to keep NVIDIA and AMD off my watch list tonight just because of how they're moving, and they're moving heavily because of what's happening with Taiwan. So you need to keep that in the back of your heads as well. And then as far as NVIDIA not being able to go with China as well either, that's another big affection on what's happening with the stock. Okay, so we need to watch this. If you can get above locally 143, maybe start to push back up to 150. But I think NVIDIA is a very weak stock right now. I'd watch out for this 134 range to act as a major support. That's a really big level. So possibly you reject off of 142 and you work your way back down to 134. But besides that, I don't love the upside here just because they're so weak as we speak. Amazon, another big play we've been talking about. I told you the next target was 125.5 to 125. You hit it today to a T. Guess what happened? You worked your way down, but you did not fill that gap yet. This is still your daily gap right here, 122. So we still want to see that filled. What am I looking at here? I'm looking to see if you're going to get a push back to 130 to 131. If you hit that level, watch for a rejection. Look at how you've trended here. You've seen all these levels being tested and you're getting hit continuously. Most likely you push and get rejected. So watch out for the rejection. But again, this all comes down, if you're trading for that downside, it doesn't come down to these charts. It does not come down to your stock. What does it come down to? It comes down to your indexes. So if you push up to 12.4, 12.5, and you don't get rejected, then don't play the downside. Sit on your hands. Be careful. Let the trades come to you, people. Don't be so aggressive. Take a step back. Let the trend form, and then trade once you get the breakout. Again, it's very simple. The Nasdaq was probably the easiest thing in the world. What did I say? You break below these levels down here, and guess what happened? Boom. Nothing but downside, people. You broke, and then it was instant. You stay down. Boom. New lows, monster movement. Congratulations. I'll see you tomorrow. More things to come out. Have a good one.